In our Home Energy Auditor certification program, we've discussed a multitude of reasons why anyone who owns a home could benefit substantially from your services. In this video, we give you one more big reason to share with your clients, and it has to do with snakes, rats, spiders, mice, mold, bats, fungus, and other creatures you don't want to have in your home, as well as dangerous plants that you may very well already have lurking nearby that you surely don't want to brush against. As a consequence of identifying cracks and voids in a home's foundation and reducing energy costs by up to 28%, you also help to keep out the majority of snakes and rodents that can take up residence in the home of your client, as well as their crawl space and attic. Let's take a look at these now, and we'll try to narrow down the geographic regions that each one may be found in. Of course, our list is not all-inclusive, so be sure to contact your local health department or cooperative extension if you plan on tackling these issues yourself. The safest course of action, if anything here takes up residence in your home, is to contact a professional pest management company. First, we look at venomous snakes that could be lurking around your home and might find its way into your crawl space. In general, most poisonous snakes have a pupil that's oblong in shape with peaked ends, like a slit in the center of the eye, and venomous snakes have a heat-sensing cavity behind its nostril, unlike its non-venomous counterparts. Most non-venomous snakes usually have round pupils. But like everything in life, there's always exceptions. The most notable exception to this rule is the very venomous coral snake, found throughout the United States, which has round pupils. There are many varieties of coral snakes as well. Another telltale sign that a snake is venomous is by looking at its tail. If it has a series of single scales as shown versus double, then the single scales indicates that it's poisonous. The most common species has a universal red-yellow, black-yellow pattern. The other scary thing about coral snakes is that they're relatively small. The most that adult coral snakes generally reach is 30 inches, so they're prime candidates to inadvertently land up in your crawl space. I say inadvertently because unlike other pests that specifically want to find a safe place to live, eat, and propagate, most snakes have poor eyesight. It's probably just a mistake that they've stumbled upon a void in your crawl space, or it sensed rodent activity, a great source of food. You should know one thing: there is no such thing as a vegetarian snake. All species of snakes are carnivores. Coral snakes have the second strongest venom of any snake in the world. The black mamba has the most deadly venom. But very few bites are reported because they're typically very reclusive. In the Northeast, including central New York, Pennsylvania, and throughout the region, as well as throughout most of the eastern portion of the U.S., you could run across the timber rattlesnake, the eastern Masaga rattlesnake, and the infamous copperhead. First, we're going to look at the timber rattlesnake. It's highly poisonous to humans and extremely dangerous. When confronted, it will rattle and strike. The timber rattlesnake has broad, diamond-shaped head with a rattle on its tail. There's two color schemes: yellow, light brown-green, as well as dark color bands, or gray with black banding. Next, we look at the eastern Masaga rattlesnake. This is the smallest of the three venomous snakes in New York, with an average size of 1 to 3 feet. This snake is found near Rochester as well as Syracuse. It has a stout body, broad head, brownish gray, with a row of hourglass-shaped dark spots along its back and 3 rows of smaller spots on its back. Some adults are completely black. It has a rattle on its tail, and if it's rattling, it will strike. Next, we look at the copperhead. These snakes are the least venomous of the pit vipers, and their bite is not enough to kill a healthy adult. They're only found in the Hudson Valley area. Their average size is 1 to 3 feet. They have copper-colored, diamond-shaped head. The body is patterned with a striking greenish-reddish-brown pattern that looks just like a dark hourglass. The last snake that I want to mention is the eastern diamondback rattlesnake. This is ranked by experts as the largest and most dangerous snake we have in the United States. It can be found close to residential areas. They live in thick vegetation, primarily eat rabbits and rodents, and can grow up to 6 feet long. They can attack without warning, and their venom is strong enough to kill 3 to 4 adults. I think this is enough about snakes, but let me wrap it up by giving you one more bit of information. The majority of venomous snakes in the U.S. have the words rattlesnake, copperhead, and Mississauga as part of their name. Next, we look at rodents, one of the most common pests that home inspectors, auditors, and residents will find occupying many crawl spaces, attics, and even in your house walls. If you've ever talked to anyone who had a rat in their house, the look of shock is pretty much how experts describe it. Rats are filthy, destructive, and can even carry disease. 50,000 people each year receive rat bites. They destroy crops and property, so when they show up at your home, it's hard to stay calm. It's not unusual if you live in a rural area, anywhere near railroad tracks, or close to businesses like a restaurant or grocery store to have some kind of a rodent problem from time to time. A rat can weigh up to 18 ounces, but you don't always see them. Most people discover rats by seeing signs of their presence. Look for droppings near food sources. Also, rats tend to follow the same pathways as they search for food, so they leave greasy marks along sideboards and walls. Rats need to gnaw in order to keep their teeth sharp, so look for chew marks on wood around the house. Go outside and see if you can find any holes in the ground that weren't there before. Rats always stay fairly close to their nests, which could be in the yard or in the house. Rats can eat just about anything, and while they require more than mice, rats don't need a great deal of food, only 1 to 3 ounces per day. So to prevent future rat issues, be careful with how you store your food and scraps. Keep food in sealed containers and clean up any spills or crumbs. Since rats need a reliable water source, make sure you have no leaks in your pipes or faucets. Keep your garbage can lids on tight. Store grass seed and bird seed in sealed containers. If you have a dog, don't leave food out for it, since rats will eat whatever is in the bowl. Unlike mice, rats need a lot of water, so they may travel in and out of your home. That's why it's important to seal up any cracks, holes, or entry points. Remember, if the hole is the size of a quarter, it's big enough for a rat. Rats are wary about new foods. They might nibble a little bit just to try something new and see if it hurts them. If they accept new food, they'll gorge on it until they're full. Other rats will follow suit. That's why effective baits often take a few days to work. If they killed immediately, most rats would avoid them. Keep out a fresh supply of baits for at least 10 days or until there are no more signs of rat activity. Rats come into your home looking for food, water, and shelter. As long as you deprive them of food and water and make it difficult for them to get in, your home will be less attractive to them. Keep in mind, the rats have been a problem throughout history. They spoil crops, they spread disease, and they damage property. There are stories of old wooden ships sinking because rats had gnawed through them. Every year, thousands of people in this country suffer from rat bites. Next, we talk about Hantavirus. Hantavirus is carried by rodents, especially deer mice. The virus is found in their urine and feces, but it does not make the animals sick. It is believed that humans can get sick with this virus if they breathe in contaminated dust from mice nests or droppings. You may come into contact with such dust when cleaning homes, sheds, or other enclosed areas that have been empty for a long time. The early symptoms of hantavirus disease are similar to that found with the flu. They include chills, fever, dry cough, muscle aches. People with hantavirus might begin to feel better for a short period of time, but within 1 to 2 days it becomes hard to breathe. The disease gets worse quickly. You need to be tested by a healthcare provider to find out for sure. Kidney failure is possible, low blood pressure, low blood oxygen levels, which can cause the skin to turn blue. People with hantavirus are admitted to the hospital, often to the intensive care unit. Treatments include oxygen, breathing tubes, special machines to add oxygen to the blood, and other supportive care to treat symptoms. Hantavirus is a serious infection that gets worse quickly. Lung failure can occur and may lead to death. Even with aggressive treatments, more than half the people who have this disease in their lungs will die. Another health issue related to rodent issues can affect your house cat. We talk about Toxoplasmosis. Toxoplasmosis is an infection caused by a parasite. It can be found in cat feces and undercooked meat, especially venison, lamb, and pork. It can also be transmitted through contaminated water. This can also be deadly or cause serious birth defects for a fetus if the mother becomes infected. That's why doctors recommend against pregnant women scooping or cleaning out cat litter boxes. Most people who have toxoplasmosis have never had symptoms at all. According to the CDC, over 60 million people in the United States will become infected with the parasite. The people who are at most risk for serious infections are those with compromised immune systems and infants born to mothers with active infection during their pregnancy. Next, we talk about mold and fungus you might run across when inspecting the crawl space or attic. Mold loves a damp, warm space that has a food source, like wood. Does it sound like your crawl space? Then you could have a moldy crawl space problem. Mold can thrive in any temperature but loves the steady temperature of your crawl space. If you add in high humidity and a food source, you have the perfect recipe for mold growth. Did you know that the wood floor joists in your crawl space are mold's favorite food? That's because they are made of cellulose. Mold loves cellulose, and the wood floor joists are made of 40 to 50% cellulose. The air in your crawl space circulates more through your home than you might expect. The warm air in your home rises up into the higher sections of your home. That's why your attic is warm if it's not insulated. As the heat rises, it creates a vacuum, which pulls the cool air up from your crawl space. This is part of the stack effect in a home. As air is pulled into your crawl space, it's cooled, creating humidity, and the cycle continues. So if there's mold in your crawl space, the mold spores are being carried throughout your home. This is even more reason to have a home energy audit done, so all voids and openings in the ductwork can be properly identified and then sealed up. The best thing you can do to minimize mold and fungus growth in your crawl space is to increase ventilation and air circulation. We want to reduce humidity as much as possible. Allow as much fresh air in as possible to stymie any mold growth. Dehumidifiers also help a lot to reduce humidity levels. Make sure there's no leaks or carpets that are water-soaked, including area rugs or carpets near washers and dryers that get chronically wet. If you have a crawl space and it has a dirt floor, the installation of plastic sheeting will reduce the odds of getting mold growth. Maintain the temperature as much as you can. Just as mold prefers dark spaces, so too does it grow better in warm areas. In summer, use your air conditioner to keep your houses cool and dry and comfortable. It would make a lot of sense to invest in a hygrometer to measure your indoor humidity levels. Next, we discuss the most dangerous spiders found in the United States that you might also run across when you're checking out your crawl space. The first spider we talk about is the brown recluse. They may be found in cluttered basements or closets. Brown recluse spiders are found in dark recesses, inhabiting stored clothing, old shoes, boxes, furniture, toys, books, stored linens, and undisturbed towels, sheds, anywhere like that. They can take shelter under furniture, appliances, carpets, behind baseboards and door facings, or even in corners and crevices. Look for cobwebs, particularly around cluttered area, under insulation, inside wall voids. Their webs are irregular and they're loose, and only used during the day for holding eggs. The brown recluse is a hunting type of spider and not a web-hanging spider. They don't use webs for hunting and capturing food. These spiders wander at night and hunt for their prey. Their diet consists of other insects, such as cockroaches and small insects. Many times, if you see a web hung on a ceiling, along walls, around shrubs, etc., they typically belong to a different type of spider. You want to eliminate outside locations for brown recluse spiders. They may be found in storage houses or buildings where items are stored. Brown recluse spiders may be found in sheltered corners among debris, wood piles, logs, debris, leaves, etc. Inspect and clean inside locations for brown recluse spiders. They're usually found indoors in bathrooms, closets, bedrooms, garages, basements, and cellars. You might even find them around the forced air heating system as well as air conditioning. They're often found above ceiling ductwork, and they can be found harboring in or around ductwork and registers. As much as possible, seal openings, cracks, and crevices in and around your home. Look for cracks and crevices in windowsills, cables, wires, anywhere around door thresholds, as well as pipes. The brown recluse spider will only bite when disturbed in their secluded spot. This could be under furniture or beds. It's wise to shake out any clothing and shoes before dressing. Inspect items before using them. If the brown recluse infestation is heavy, seal clothing items and shoes in plastic bags. Don't garden, handle firewood, pine, straw, etc. without wearing gloves. Try to keep doors and windows screened and shut. Minimize light from the outside. Lights attract insects, and the insects attract spiders. Don't go outside barefoot. Remove beds from walls and curtains. Keep bedspreads and bed skirts from touching the floor. Lighten up a room or let in the sun. Brown recluse spider adults are brown, and they're uniform in color. They have 6 eyes. Most spiders have 8 eyes. They have an oval-shaped abdomen. The adult body varies from 1/3 of an inch to 1/2 an inch in length. With the legs, it can be an overall size of 1 inch diameter or greater, but the body is not more than 1/2 an inch. No spines on legs with long, thin legs that are uniformly colored. If the body is a different color than the legs, or if the legs have different colors, it is not a brown recluse spider. If there are more than one color on the abdomen, it is not a brown recluse. Brown recluse spiders only have fine hairs. If they have thick spines on their legs, then they are not brown recluses. The brown recluse spider has a distinctive darker brown, violin-shaped mark with the neck of the violin pointing towards the abdomen. Tail ends have no markings. People commonly get brown recluse spider bites in areas that spiders had been hiding, in shoes, towels, old work shorts, etc. It is very common to get a brown recluse spider bite when you're changing clothes, putting your hands into a pocket, or putting on shoes. The brown recluse spider had crawled in there at some time to take shelter. The brown recluse commonly bites when it's disturbed by being squeezed. The initial pain with a brown recluse spider bite is not intense unless there's a severe reaction. Within 8 to 12 hours, the pain from the brown recluse spider bite becomes intense. Within 24 to 36 hours, the victim may have fever, chills, nausea, joint pain, and be restless. The area of the brown recluse spider bite enlarges, it becomes inflamed, and the tissue is hard to touch. The venom of this spider has an enzyme that destroys cell membranes in the wounded area. The affected tissue falls away, exposing underlying tissues, and over a period of a few days, a large, ulcerous sore forms. An open wound from the brown recluse spider bite may range in size from an adult's thumbnail to the span of a hand. The sore heals very slowly, 6 to 8 weeks on average, and often leaves a large, disfiguring scar. If you're bitten, collect the spider if possible for identification, and get medical attention immediately. Another spider that you don't want to run across is the infamous black widow. They're found everywhere in the United States. The female black widow is considered the most venomous spider in North America. The venom of the black widow spider is 15 times as toxic as the venom of the prairie rattlesnake. Only the female black widow is dangerous to humans. Males and juveniles are harmless. More than 35,000 species of spiders occur worldwide, and 3,400 species of spiders in 64 families are found in North America. Female black widow spiders are about half an inch long to 1.5 inches long when the legs are spread. Males are about half the female size, with smaller bodies and longer legs. Both females and males have shiny, globular abdomens that are mostly black, and they're sometimes brown. Females usually have a reddish hourglass shape on the underside of their abdomens. In some species, the females have a series of red spots and 2 crosswise bars on their underbelly. Male black widows frequently have yellow and red bands on spots over their backs, as do both sexes of black widows in their immature stages. Juveniles of both sexes resemble the male and are harmless to humans. You might wonder why we didn't list the black widow as the #1 most dangerous spider. Well, that's because no one has died in over a decade from the bite. Very often the black widow will not inject any venom into the bite, and no serious symptoms develop. If you wash the wound well with soap and water, it helps to prevent infection. If muscle cramps develop, take the patient to the nearest hospital. There's a number of things that you can do to minimize the risk of a black widow around your home. Remove or reduce trash and rubbish from your home and workplace. Get rid of wood piles, boxes, plywood, etc. Keep outside perimeter areas of your home free from tall grass, weeds, and shrubs, especially near the foundation. Always wear protective clothing, including gloves and covered shoes when you're working outdoors. Always check items that have been stored in the garage or in a shed or outdoors for spiders, webs, or sacks before bringing items indoors. Keep items like gloves or shoes in Ziploc bags or sealed containers. On the inside, keep beds away from the wall. Don't store boxes or any items under your bed. Keep dust ruffles or bed skirts from touching the floor. Don't store shoes on the floor or any clothes, towels, or other linens. Always shake out shoes and clothes before using. Seal cracks and access holes for electrical conduits or plumbing. Remove spider webs and egg sacs when found. Another dangerous spider, but found only in the state of Florida, is the red widow spider. The average size of a mature female red widow spider is approximately half an inch, with a leg span of 1.5 to 2 inches. Mature male red widow spiders are much smaller, approximately 1/3 of the size of the female. The head and legs of a red widow spider are rusty reddish colors. The abdomen is black and generally has rows of red or orange dots, which are outlined in white or yellow. Red widow spiders do not typically have the well-known hourglass markings that you'll see on the underside of their abdomen, but instead have only one single red mark, which resembles a flattened triangle. As with all widow spiders, only the female of the species is considered dangerous. The much smaller male is considered harmless. Red widow spiders are nocturnal, which means they are active during the nighttime. Next on the list of spiders is the hobo spider. The adult hobo spider has several chevron-shaped markings on their abdomen, has a brownish color, and can reach a body length of 1/3 to 2/3 of an inch, and the legs can reach up to 2/3 to 2 inches. The male's mouth has 2 large boxing glove-like parts, while the females have bigger abdomens. Hobo spiders live anywhere in the following areas: Oregon, Utah, Montana, Washington, Wyoming, Idaho, and Colorado. If you're bitten, a blister is formed within 24 hours, which later breaks open and turns into an ulcer, with liquid oozing out after a day or two. A terrible headache is one of the most frequent complaints, in addition to weakness, nausea, and damaged eyesight. There's also short-term memory loss as well as fatigue. Another spider whose bite packs quite a punch is the wolf spider. An adult wolf spider can reach up to half an inch or more in length, with brown to grayish speckles and a distinctive impression of a Union Jack on the upper stomach area. The young spiders are carried on the back of the female. The wolf spider is a nocturnal ground dweller that can move swiftly when it feels threatened and has a burrow lined with silk to retreat into. The bite can be very painful and is venomous, but is not fatal. Wolf spiders are not aggressive, but they will bite you if provoked. We conclude the spider section with tarantulas. On average, tarantulas measure 7 to 10 centimeters in length, but are capable of exceeding 3 times this in size. Tarantulas commonly come in black or brown in color, with distinguishable body hair, which they use as a defense mechanism against predators. They can be found in some, if not all, parts of California, Nevada, New Mexico, Arizona, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, Missouri, Colorado, Kansas, Utah, and Oklahoma. Tarantulas thrive all over grassland and open desert areas with soils that are well drained and dry. However, there are some species that survive in caves, cliffs, trees, including banana and pineapple crops. Although all tarantulas are poisonous, there has been no recorded data of any deaths caused by a tarantula bite. However, their bites are excruciatingly painful and can last for many days. So if you have a damp crawl space, this is probably one spider that you don't have to worry about seeing. Bats are very unattractive and they tend to cause more fear than warranted. If you think you have a bat problem, check the outside of your home to determine how they're getting in. Possibilities include open windows, vents, and loose siding. The next thing you want to do if you have a bat problem is to seal the entrance. Depending on how the bats are entering, this may involve using caulk, wire mesh, or weather stripping. If you still believe that there may be bats inside the home, install a one-way bat door. If for some reason the bats are not leaving at night, you will need to force them outside. There's chemicals available that you can spread in the attic or crawl space to entice the bats outside. The substance emits an odor that repels bats and discourages them from returning for as long as the odor lasts. Note that while the chemical is safe for indoor use, people with any kind of respiratory problem should avoid the treated areas. Natural repellent alternatives also include bright lights as well as electric fans. Several highly fatal diseases have been linked to bats. Rabies is perhaps the most well-known disease associated with bats. Along with animals such as dogs, foxes, raccoons, and skunks, bats are the primary animals that transmit rabies. And exposure to rabies most commonly occurs when a person is bitten by a rabid animal. Histoplasmosis is another disease associated with bats. Its symptoms vary greatly, but the disease primarily affects the lungs. Occasionally, other organs are affected. When this happens, it can be fatal if untreated. Histoplasmosis is caused by fungus that grows in soil and material contaminated with droppings from animals, including bats. Droppings, also known as bat guano, can contaminate the soil and cause infectious spores to be released when the soil is disturbed. Next, we look at some dangerous plants to watch for while inspecting around homes. Sometimes they find their way in through voids in the foundation. The first several are more dangerous if you have young children around the house, as they may be attracted to the colors or the innocence of the berries and take a fatal bite. Bittersweet nightshade is a very common weed and especially dangerous around children, as they're attracted to its brightly colored berries. Next, we talk about foxgloves. They grow well in dry shade. They're often found in the problematic areas of the yard, but they are among the most toxic specimens commonly grown on the landscape. Do not grow them if small children will be spending time in the yard. If you live in the rural areas of eastern North America, you may have some mountain laurel growing in your backyard. These are very toxic. Don't let pets nibble on any part of these shrubs. Next, we talk about the giant hogweed. Definitely don't touch this plant. It is listed as a federally noxious weed. Its sap, in combination with moisture and sunlight, can cause severe skin and eye irritation, painful blistering, permanent scarring, yes, permanent scarring, and blindness. Contact between the skin and the sap of this plant occurs either through brushing against it or by breaking the stems or leaves. So what do you do if you come into contact with this? Well, immediately wash the affected area thoroughly with soap and water and keep the area away from sunlight for at least 48 hours. This plant poses a serious health threat. You should definitely see your doctor if you feel that you've been burned by a giant hogweed. If you think that this plant is on your property, do not touch it. Contact the local authorities. This plant can grow to be 14 feet or more in height. Its hollow, ridged stems grow 2 to 4 inches in diameter and has dark reddish-purple blotches. Its large compound leaves can grow up to 5 feet wide. Its white flower heads can grow to be another 2.5 feet in diameter. There are some other plants that look very similar. We conclude with fire ants. In areas where fire ants are commonly found, most people identify this pest by the appearance of the mound. Fire ants build mounds in almost any type of soil, but they prefer open sunny areas such as pastures, parks, lawns, and fields. Their mounds can grow from 18 to 24 inches in height if the soil conditions are right. Often mounds are located in rotting logs and around stumps and trees. Colonies can also occur in and under buildings. The ants themselves are reddish-brown in color and roughly 1/8 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch in length. There are several species of fire ants found throughout the United States. Some of them are indigenous. The red imported fire ant is considered the worst of all varieties. It has become a major pest in many parts of the country. In fact, this ant's ability to rapidly reproduce, its aggressive swarming behavior, and painful stings have made the red imported fire ant one of the most detested insects around. There are a variety of methods available to treat infestations. We'll be sure to show you a number of fire ants in case you've never seen them before. Approximately 60% of people that live in fire ant infested areas are stung each year. Red imported fire ants are currently found in subtropical southeastern areas of the U.S., including Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and parts of Texas. If that wasn't bad enough, there's a relatively new invasive species of ants, lovingly referred to as crazy ants, and they're displacing fire ants in areas across the southeastern U.S., according to researchers at the University of Texas. This ant is causing havoc to the regional ecosystem unlike anything before. When you talk to folks who live in invaded areas, they'll tell you that they'll take fire ants back anytime. As a matter of fact, they say the fire ants in many ways are very polite. They live in your yard, they form mounds, and they stay there. And they only interact with you if you step on their mound. Unlike crazy ants, they go everywhere. They invade people's homes. They nest in crawl spaces and walls. They become incredibly abundant and damage electrical equipment. The crazy ants were first discovered in the U.S. in early 2002 by a pest control operator out of the suburbs of Houston. And since then, they have established populations in over 21 counties in Texas, 20 counties in Florida, and a few sites in southern Mississippi and Louisiana. In 2012, the species was formally identified, and they are native to northern Argentina and southern Brazil. Frequently referred to as raspberry crazy ants, these ants recently have been given the official common name tawny crazy ants. The tawny crazy ant invasion is the most recent in a series of ant invasions from South America brought on by human movement. These ants are much harder to control than fire ants. They don't consume most of the poison baits that kill fire ant mounds, and they don't have the same kinds of colony boundaries that fire ants do. That means that even if you've killed in a certain area, the super colony survives and can swarm right back over that area again. They don't sting you like fire ants do, but aside from that, they're much bigger pests. Infected residents have to call pest control operators every 3 or 4 months just to keep up with the infestation. It's very expensive. If you found the information in this video helpful, we appreciate if you could like this video and then click subscribe.